I would like to very warm welcome on behalf of Netherlands Indian Association. This is the oldest organization for last 70 years in Netherlands. I would like to very over VIP guest today for Madam Maria van der Pas, Senior Manager, Van Gogh Museum, and Madam Eva Capon, Relationship Manager, Van Gogh Museum. Before to start all the function, I would like to request my humble request to all of you. We go to silent for 1 minute. One of our dear friend for Netherlands Indian Association, our former president, former treasurer, a very loyal member for last 45 years. He do so much for our organization and also other organization. And we want to just silent for 1 minute for the respect. Please. Thank you. Thank you very much. And God bless Mr. Pramod Sharma. May his soul rest in peace in heaven. And God give strength to his family. Vincent van Gogh, well-known Dutch artist in history across the world. Famous Van Gogh almost every year. Museum people visited 2.1 million people visitors in the museum. And as a Dutch, we are such a proud, we are such a famous museum in Holland and which is visited by every year more than 110 country people from all over the world. And also very proud for Dutch, more than 2.1 million people visit every year. Now I would like to floor to Madam Maria van der Pas, Senior Manager, Van Gogh Museum. Madam, very warm welcome. Now floor for you. Tell something about our museum.
Thank you very much, Vinod. Very nice to be here today together with my colleague Eva Capon. I think it's very lovely that you are thinking about Van Gogh, and you have invited us to tell us a little bit more about the Van Gogh Museum and what our work is at the museum. Eva, would you like maybe a small introduction of both of us? Shall I start with Eva?
Please.
Eva, the floor is yours.
My name is Eva. I am Dutch. I was born in Amsterdam, but I've lived in London and Cambridge in the UK for a long time. I came back 2 years ago to work at this very special Van Gogh Museum together with Marije. And sadly, so far, a lot of the time that I've been working here, the museum has been closed. But therefore, you can imagine that I'm extremely excited for the coming months when we've kind of just reopened again. So I hope you'll all come and visit.
Yep.
Thank you very much, Eva. So my name is Marije van der Pas. As Eva said, I work together with Eva at the Van Gogh Museum. I've been working there since 2012, so almost 9 years in September, which is quite a long time already. I have studied law a long time ago, and I've traveled a lot, some international work experience, worked in France as well, in the south of France. For a Dutch bank, which you probably all know is Van Lanschot, which is a big sponsor of the Van Gogh Museum as well. And after some travels, I came back, studied at Erasmus University as well. And I did a few years of sports marketing where I advised big national and international companies on their sponsoring strategies. And then the Van Gogh Museum came along, and which my heart was always with art and culture. So this beautiful position to help the museum raise funds came open, and I've been working there since with a lot of pleasure. I focus on major donors and legacies. And together with Eva, we are responsible for actually the private fundraising of the museum. I'm a mother of two. I have two small boys of 3 and 5 who keep me busy as well in these times, working from home. So again, it's really our pleasure to meet you all today and to tell you a little bit more about Vincent van Gogh and the Van Gogh Museum.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So Eva, the first slide. Yes, thank you. So it's for us. It's not clear, of course, how well you are informed about the Van Gogh Museum. So we thought we start off with some facts for you. The museum is, of course, located, as we just discussed before we started, at the Museumplein, which is, of course, one of the most beautiful squares in the Netherlands and worldwide, I think, because it has such a variety of art and culture, all concentrated on this small square, because it's not such a big square after all. But we have something for everyone. We have modern art, contemporary art. We have the National Museum, which is our pride and joy, of course. And then we have the Van Gogh Museum, which was founded in 1973. We will come back on a little bit more on the history of the museum in a later slide. So the museum, as you can see, was founded in 73. So in 2 years, the museum will exist 50 years. Which is a big milestone, of course, for the museum, and where our work, where we will tell you a little bit more about our work as well, comes in, of course, greatly, as we are, of course, working together how to make sure that the mission of the museum can be continued for generations to come. Actually, that's actually what we do at the museum. Just to start out with the mission, we have a new director, Emily Goordenker, who started just 1 month before Corona broke out. So she has had, of course, a roller coaster time crisis managing the museum through these extraordinary times. And we have slightly changed our mission a little bit, which of course museum directors do when they enter a new museum. It is still the mission of the museum, and it is the Van Gogh Museum inspires a diverse audience with the life and work of Vincent van Gogh and his time. Because of course we show works by Vincent van Gogh, but we also show work by his contemporaries. And of course we try to make the bridge with modern and contemporary as well, because there is no modern or contemporary artist that has not been influenced in some way by Van Gogh or by his letters or by his contemporaries. So we also try every 2 years to give a big show about a modern or contemporary artist in the museum, which is, of course, we do this in close collaboration with the Stedelijk Museum. They say to us, as long as you're not acquiring any works of arts, we only applaud this. We think it's only great. And most of the time we try to find a real connection that this artist has with Van Gogh. So it doesn't have to be a literal connection, but we try to see if there has been a connection between these artists. So just to start off, Eva, can you show us the next slide? We wanted to, just because it's via Zoom and because we're able, to talk easily to each other this way, who was Vincent and what do you know about him already? We would like to get a little bit more feeling with this, if that's okay. If there's anyone who would like to comment on this.
Yeah, do speak up. What was your first meeting with him? Or have you never heard of Van Gogh maybe before?
Pretty popular, I think. After tulips, one of the most popular things about Netherlands. Yeah. And we know that he's slightly eccentric, so he's not like a normal person. He's like an artistic savant, as they say.
As in, sorry?
A savant. A savant is somebody who's eclectic.
Yeah, savant, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, he's more than slightly.
Yeah, and he had a very disturbed life, is also what we hear, right?
Yeah. And do you like his art?
Very much. I think it's very unique, and I cannot think of anyone who can paint like him. He's got his very unique style, I think. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, and the nice thing about him is that his popularity has been growing, past years. And wait a second, I hear an echo, which is not good. We get rid of that. Okay. Can you? So, but his popularity has been growing for years now. And if it's by chance through songs that become popular about him, but I know there are lots of people, young and old, who both appreciate his art and his tragic life story.
Yeah, of course, he's very iconic. Huh? I mean, the general average age of museum visitors is 32 at the museum, which is extremely young, of course, for a museum. And I think it also has to do with the letters that Van Gogh, of course, wrote with friends, but mainly with his brother. And of course, sadly, we don't have the letters that Theo sent to Vincent, because Vincent was, of course, not in a state to neatly keep all these letters, but his brother did. And this way we get such a concentration of information and feelings, what he was struggling with, which of course everyone in our life is struggling with. So it's so universal, the problems and the issues that he had, and he was so open about it. I think that it speaks to many people worldwide, and they're all attracted by it. And the conclusion is that they all want to come and visit his art.
Yeah. No, it's always nice to hear other people's stories, and sometimes people came to the museum for the first time and were really touched by it emotionally, because I think this is the ability he has to, regardless of what kind of culture you come from, what age you are, maybe what you've experienced in your life, to really touch someone with his art. And I think that's nice to kind of show people and talk about. Yeah. So
my sister living in America, she told us they are all tell also about his life story in the school and the university. He's so famous in America, all over the world, and people know so much about him more than Dutch. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
Well, I also think everybody has, which strikes me, is that everybody has a personal or emotional story. Everyone that I meet says to me, like, when I studied, I had a poster of him in my study. We just heard you saying that, your house is filled with prints of Van Gogh, and this way everybody has their own story with this artist, which is of course amazing.
Yeah. So we had a little video, which is by the museum, to share with you. We wanted to interrupt the presentation by a couple of videos. This first one is really simply to sort of lay out the line of his life and his work. And it's really just to make sure that we're all on the same level when we continue talking about him. We've all had a bit of a background idea. The museum has been making a lot of digital material whilst we were closed during COVID. So I will recommend everyone just check out our YouTube sometimes, and you'll learn a lot of new things as well. Now, I had planned to put this video called Vincent, My Story.
Super.
You can see that video, yeah?
Yeah.
Yes.
You probably know me already. I'm famous the world over. But do you know my story? Brabant, painted just as I remember it. That's where I grew up. I was different from the others. Stubborn, always in trouble at home and at school. Things were better outdoors. I loved being out in the fields. Do you know what you want to be yet? Well, I certainly didn't. I was an art dealer in Paris and London, a teacher in England, a priest in Belgium. I tried the lot. Nothing worked out. My brother, Theo, my best friend, had an idea. Vincent, you're good at drawing. Why don't you do something with that? Well, he was right. I was always drawing, and I could learn how to paint. There was no time to lose. Practice, practice, practice. I was unstoppable. Anton Malv, my cousin and a famous artist, taught me how to paint in oils. I got my first commission, drawing cityscapes of The Hague, the train station. What a building, all that glass. I wanted to show real life, nature, the lives of farmers, what I saw as I felt it. That's what I wanted to paint, something good, something with soul in it. And look, there they are, their weather-beaten faces in the shadows, sitting in the light of a small lamp, poking their calloused hands into the dish of potatoes they themselves have sown and harvested. Others didn't think much of it. That woman's nose looks like dice at the end of a pipe stem. Even Theo thought it was too dark. But I had started. I was an artist. Theo, I owe you so much. When I came to Paris, I lived with you. When I wanted to paint, you paid for my paints and brushes. And me, I was insufferable, living only for my art. Late-night discussions with innovative artists like Lautrec, Bernard, Gauguin, about contrasts, colors, loose brushstrokes. But the work wasn't selling. I rarely had money for models, so I'd often end up looking in the mirror. After 2 years, I was fed up with the city. I headed south, to the light, the colors. That's where I painted the colors of the wheat, of the night, and the sea, which had many more colors than just blue. Green, purple, blue, pink. The sea changes color like a mackerel's skin. I looked around me and found beauty in almost everything, even in these withering sunflowers. I had big plans for this yellow house. It's where I wanted to work with others to create a new kind of art. But only my artist friend Gauguin came south. We had the most fierce discussions about art. What should you paint? What you see with your eyes or what you see in your mind? One evening, things started to go wrong. I just wasn't myself anymore. I cut off my left ear. I was sick. I had myself admitted to hospital. But I didn't stop. I worked on, like some kind of painting locomotive. And slowly I got my life back on track. In the countryside, just north of Paris, with Theo close by, I worked incessantly. My head was on fire. My paintbrush swept back and forth until... Now you know my story. The story of a misunderstood, stubborn man who wouldn't give up. A story about needing to do what it is that you're good at. So tell me, what are you good at?
Thank you so much.
Yep. Nice.
It's it seems a little bit of a, how would you say, maybe made for children or something, because it's so simple, the video, but actually what I like about it is that it's in the first person of Vincent. And as I'm sure a lot of you know, he wrote a lot of letters. So the voice that we all know of Vincent is through his letters and all in the I person. And he talks to his brother, he talks to his sister, he talks to his painter friends. Always like, I thought of this, I thought of that. And I think that's the voice that we know from him. So it makes a lot of sense to make a video like that where it's him talking to us. But yeah, I'll let Mario back on word and I'll share my screen again to go back to the PowerPoint.
Yeah.
Almost there. Yes. Maya, you're muted.
Sorry.
We can hear you.
Yeah.
Already very excited talking, but I'm sorry. It's very nice to have this video to give a little bit of overview, if not everybody has the same level of knowledge on Van Gogh, or maybe all of you have visited the museum. But as you probably all know as well, he died very young, because how did his story continue? Because during his lifetime, he only sold one painting, and he sold it to Madame Boch from the Villeroy and Boch families. It's a famous painting as well, and he didn't get a lot for it. He was just at the verge of being recognized by his fellow artists. Gauguin spoke very highly of him. Of course, they had a different opinion on how to look at art and how to interpret art, but they were very, even after the ear incident, which happened, of course, in Arles, when they had a quarrel, and he cut off his ear. Even after that, Gauguin said that he was one of the greatest artists of his time. So when he died, his brother Theo inherited the entire collection. And as you probably all know as well, it was Theo who died only a few months actually after Vincent passed away. And you see the painting here in the back, which is of course the almond blossom, which Vincent painted for the birth of his nephew. Here you see the picture of Johanna, the wife of Theo, Johanna van Gogh Bonger. And she is here with their only child, Vincent Willem. And Vincent painted this picture for them, and he hoped that they would put the painting in the nursery. And when he came to visit them one day, he saw that they were so happy about the painting that they didn't want to hang it in the nursery, because then, you know, they would not see it all the time. They hung it into the salon, so everybody could see it, because it is one of the finest paintings. Of course, it is really a painting about life, new branches, new life, light. There's a lot of joy in this painting, and it's so it jumps off the ceiling. It looks like it was painted yesterday, actually. So you can imagine that when Vincent passed away, they were very sad. But then 6 months later, Johanna loses her husband as well, and she is a very young widow with a small baby and an entire collection. And what not many people know is that actually Jo van Gogh Bonger was she was like a marketing woman avant la lettre, before the word marketing even existed. She has very meticulously planned many exhibitions. She was the one who inherited all the letters between the brothers, and it is the love that she had for her husband, but also for Vincent, and the love that the two brothers had for each other, that she started to edit the letters, and she decided to publish the letters to make this this iconic correspondence between these two brothers available for everyone. So when she started doing this, slowly but surely, Vincent's name became bigger and bigger. Then she also started, next to organizing exhibitions, she also started selling works, until at a certain point, she and her son, Vincent Willem, decided that this was the moment that the rest of the collection they wanted to keep together. And then it was actually Vincent Willem, the son of Theo and Jo, who decided in the 60s that he wanted to give the collection to the Dutch state, and give it entirely. So he didn't keep anything in the family. And we have his grandson, Vincent Willem, whom we call Willem, because he doesn't like it if he's called Vincent, because then everybody thinks of him as the artist. But he works in our department as well, and he works for the museum as an advisor to the board. He's really a very fine ambassador, but he grew up with the paintings, and he grew up with his granddad, thinking about this big mission that he had in continuing to make this collection available for everyone. And he said to his grandfather, but grandfather, can't I keep just one little letter with a little sketch? And then his grandfather said, no, Willem, because if I'm going to do this for you, I have to do it for your brother and sister, and I have to do it for your nephews. So he was very rigid, but he was a very visionary man. Because of this, the collection has been kept intact, and they are now part of the Vincent van Gogh Foundation, which is a separate foundation. And Vincent Willem, the son of Theo and Jo, asked the Dutch government to build the Van Gogh Museum, and that is actually how the museum was founded in 73. So it's a fantastic story on how this family was involved and still is involved, because the family is still very actively involved. And we thought it would be nice to share this with you as well. And I will ask Eva as well to send you an article that was released in the magazine of the New York Times a few weeks ago. And it is really a fantastic long read on how Johanna van Gogh-Bonger worked very hard to make her brother-in-law as famous as he is today. So I think it's nice to share this article with you as well, to give you a little bit more insight on this story, which not many people actually know in the Netherlands. And maybe a good thing to mention as well is that last year we also published the biography of Jo, which will also be translated in English. We found, Eva and I found a donor who has been very generous in supporting this, and she thinks it's so important that this story is available to English-speaking people as well. So it will be translated soon for all of you to enjoy, which is really a must-read, I must say.
Yeah, it's
Now,
incredible to learn actually what an important role his sister-in-law Jo Bonger had in making Vincent van Gogh famous. And it's one of those forgotten women of history that is now getting her due attention.
Exactly.
Okay, so I think we'll quickly tell you a little bit more about the museum, because you may have thought, you will know that the museum has been closed for a long time, actually reopened this past weekend, which we're extremely happy with. But just to give you an impact of what it was like over the past year, as was mentioned in the introduction, in 2019, we received 2.1 million visitors, which is incredible. That amount for a museum that is actually really quite young, because we're not even 15 years old and founded in 73, and that is actually not that large compared to the museums worldwide that are famous, like the Metropolitan Museum in New York or the Modern Museum of Tate in London. We're only just quite small, and our visitor numbers were huge. We had 3 beautiful exhibitions on Hockney and Van Gogh. That was extremely popular in 2019, about the sunflowers in the summer. We told everything about that famous painting. And one on François Millet, which was a French artist that was one of Vincent's biggest examples when he was becoming a painter. But then what happened in 2020? The museum had to, of course, close due to COVID. We were closed for a total of 9 months. And the losses were enormous. During the months that we were closed, we lost about 4 million a month in income that we missed. So if you think of our income, most of it is made through ticketing. I think that's about half of it from all the visitors that we had. You probably know that we have a museum shop. We have all sorts of other commercial licensing deals with other brands. And all in all, we only receive 10% of support from the government in a normal year. And I think maybe for foreign people, this is actually quite a normal number, especially Americans who are very much used to museums being something that is supported by private individuals. But Dutch people are actually very used to these kind of facilities being just sponsored by the government. That's what they expect to pay their taxes for. So
Eva, it's good to say that, for example, the Rijksmuseum, it's a nice comparison. It's of course much bigger, but they get about 55%.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I didn't
And
even know their number. That's extremely high compared to what we had. So we did receive during the COVID months, we received some support, extra support from the government, just like all the organizations that had problems. But it didn't by any means cover all of the losses we had, which you can calculate were enormous, millions and millions. So for that, we've always looked for sponsors and partners and supporters, but from only being a small part of what our income was, they've suddenly become half of our income. And that's Marije and I's job and some other colleagues. So we've all been extremely busy over the last few months. I've given you a little explanation slide here of what we do. The extra supports that we look for, we get for the special projects, educational, for example, we try to get in schools of all sorts of backgrounds to come and visit us, restoration projects to make sure the paintings look the way they do in a museum, research and capital projects. By that I mean, for example, the new entrance that was built about 20 years ago, and larger sort of building projects. And we get these from corporate partners. We have some incredible big corporate partners like ASML that you might have heard of, the chip company, or Van Lanschot that Marije also mentioned is a Dutch bank. We get money from foundations like the Bank Giro Loterij, very well known in the Netherlands, and individuals. And that's what Marije and I are busy with on a daily basis. And these individuals sometimes support us in the form of friends. Very simple, people become a friend of the museum, but they also for example, give us larger donations. We have different patron circles, and we have given them names that are really related to the paintings, like the Sunflower Collective. They support an exhibition each year, or the Theo van Gogh Circle, named after his brother, who Marije just told you about. Theo always supported Vincent during his lifetime. Every month he sent him money, which wasn't done then by an internet transfer, but simply by putting some money in an envelope or a check or something to buy his paints, his brushes. And we thought it'd be nice if people could also sponsor actually the continuation of that. So there's people, members of our organization, who support or restoration or research, everything that has to do with the art. So the message of Vincent can be continued. Then we have another one called the Yellow House, after the famous yellow house that Vincent lived in Arles in France, that we saw quickly in the video before. And they support the acquisitions for the museum, or if people want to leave something to the museum, sometimes the painting, sometimes part of their own inheritance, or anything. We have the Jo van Gogh Bonger Circle, named after Jo, who was Vincent's sister-in-law that we mentioned earlier. And we have a separate foundation which we made this year to put all the donation monies in and actually create a real separate fund for everything that we try to support. Marije, do you want to say anything extra on that? Oh, you're on mute.
Sorry. Yeah, maybe just that the fund is like a separate fund where we have a separate board who makes sure that all the donations go to what the donor has designated the donation for, but also a fund to build a bigger reserve, because we have seen that we have been quite fragile due to our structure, actually, because we depend for 50% on ticket income. If all the visitors fall away, then the museum really comes in a complicated situation. So the urgency to build more capital to make sure that the museum can continue to exist over many years, we have decided to build an endowment fund as well, which is very American. You don't really see this very often in the Netherlands. But because the museum has such an international, how do you say that? well, international appeal as well, we do think that we will be able to acquire some of these endowment gifts that we will raise for this fund. So it's exciting to start this, and it's also important because it's really for perpetuity, the perpetuity of the museum. Yeah.
Yeah. So this was the second video that I want to share with you. We told you about the great grandnephew of the painter Vincent van Gogh, who carries his same name just as his grandfather, who was then the nephew of Vincent van Gogh. And he works with us in the relationship with our sponsors and donors. And he's absolutely a great individual, Willem van Gogh. And last year when we reopened for the first time, I mean, gosh, we all thought that was the once and only reopening we'd ever experienced, but it turned out to be the third. He made this video, which I think is really lovely to share. It was only exclusively shown to our donors, where he welcomes everyone back into the museum. And we thought it'd be nice to show you because we welcome you as our visitors back to our museum and hope that you will all come, even if you've been before, because we promise you'll see new things. So now here comes the whole ritual of trying to share this video with you again.
Excuse me, could I ask a question in the meanwhile?
Of course.
Eva, Marije. Okay.
Yes.
So you were talking about change of strategy because you have a new director. Fine. Is that, by the way, the same director who used to be at the Maurits house?
Exactly. Yes. Her
Okay,
name is
good.
Bordekker.
Okay, so that's good, I'd say.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that you talk about, are there any new acquisitions expected? Because you never know, there might be here and there other work of.
You know, well, with a new director, she will also look at the acquisition policy, of course, of the museum, and she has not had time to look into that properly, I think. But in these times, we're very careful and conservative with acquiring paintings, of course, because we're running, we lose money on one side, so it is a bit strange to spend money, which comes, of course, for the greatest part from Bankieren Loterij. We are in a construction with the Mauritshuis, Rijksmuseum, Kröller-Müller, and Van Gogh Museum, and we are in a 5-year grant that we get from them, and every year we get about 2.2 million for acquisitions. But they have also said that in these times we are allowed to spend the money otherwise on exhibitions, on core activities of the museum. But as you can imagine, we have to be really careful how we present ourselves in, asking for money or, needing money, and on the other hand, spending it. So we haven't acquired a lot, but of course, if something really amazing comes up, like last year there was a famous ladder between Gauguin and Van Gogh, and it was on our list for a very long time. And then, for example, the Vincent van Gogh Foundation stepped in, and then it's a different story, of course, because if the ladder is funded, then it's fine, of course, then it's not a problem. But you have to be very careful how you put this in the press and to your donors. Good question.
Okay, I'm starting the video, yeah?
Thank you.
Wat ontzettend fijn om elkaar te zien in deze tijd die zoveel ontregelt in al onze levens. Elkaar zien, dat is te lang geleden. En ik hoop dat het met u en uw dierbaren allemaal goed gaat, dat u in goede doen bent. Ik wil heel graag namens iedereen bij het Van Gogh Museum u bedanken voor de steun die we hebben ervaren. Steun die we ook de komende tijd nog heel hard nodig zullen hebben. Het Van Gogh Museum gaat op 1 juni open en daar zijn we ontzettend blij mee. Komt u mee? Het leven en werk van Vincent van Gogh verbindt mensen van over de hele wereld sinds de opening van het museum in 1973. Tijdens zijn leven steunde Theo, met een liefdevol gemoed, zijn broer onvoorwaardelijk. Daarom heeft Vincent het weergaloos geschilderde Stilleven met kweeperen voor zijn broer gemaakt. Na het schilderen van de donkere en ook sombere aardappeleters in Nederland ging Vincent bij zijn broer Theo in Parijs wonen. Daar ontdekte hij de stralende kleuren van het impressionisme en wat er verder ook allemaal gaande is in Parijs. Ik stel me voor dat Vincent en Theo, mijn overgrootvader, samenleven in Theo's appartement. En dat Vincent daar het stilleven, het prachtige stilleven met kweeperen voor zijn broer schildert. Ik vind dat een heel intiem beeld. De schaal met fruit op de tafel in de zitkamer van het appartement van de twee broers. Dit schilderij ontroert mij nog steeds. Vincent is zich hier als kunstenaar aan het ontwikkelen met een studie in prachtige kleuren geel. Geel is de kleur van vriendschap, licht, hoop en van de liefde. Geschilderd als symbool voor de bijzondere band die de broers hadden. Het werk is in felrood opgedragen aan mon frère Theo, aan mijn broer Theo. En het staat voor het streven van de broers om een bijdrage te leveren aan de moderne kunst. De een als kunstenaar en de ander als kunsthandelaar. Het is misschien wel het mooiste werk dat Vincent in zijn 2 Parijse jaren heeft geschilderd. Wanneer Vincent naar Arles gaat, zien we die prachtige kleuren geel weer terug in de zonnebloemen. Voor Vincent hadden de schilderijen van de zonnebloemen een betekenis. Hij schreef dat ze hoop en dankbaarheid uitdrukten. Vincent wilde kunst maken die troost biedt aan bedroefde harten. De warmte spat van het doek af. De ongrijpbaarheid van hoe de vaas met bloemen er moet hebben bijgestaan. En de zorgvuldige verfstreken van Vincent, die iedere bloem een eigen karakter en verhaal heeft willen meegeven. Heeft u wel eens een vaas met zonnebloemen getekend? Best lastig. Vincent maakte 2 versies om het gele huis mee in te richten voor de komst van zijn vriend Paul Gauguin. Gauguin had namelijk eerder in Parijs al eens 2 kleine schilderijen met een paar zonnebloemen van Vincent gekregen, in ruil voor 1 schilderij van Gauguin. Vincent wilde duidelijk indruk maken op zijn vriend en zag enorm uit naar zijn komst. Hier staan we dan bij het gele huis. Een droom van Vincent werd werkelijkheid, een eigen huis onder de Provençaalse zon. Hier moest het gaan gebeuren. Een atelier voor kunstenaars om met elkaar samen te werken en elkaar te inspireren. Let op het perspectief. Het huis wordt als het ware opgedrongen aan de kijker, alsof het met een groothoeklens is geschilderd. Het gele huis was het centrum van de wereld van Vincent. Als je door de luiken kijkt, zie je de beroemde slaapkamer van Van Gogh. Op de begane grond zie je de kwasten, de tubes verf en de meesterwerken die tegen de muren staan. Als we goed kijken naar het schilderij, zien we dat de onderste helft grotendeels bestaat uit verschillende tinten geel en het bovenste gedeelte uit een groot, prachtig kobaltblauw vlak. De zinderende warmte van het schilderij doet je weer verlangen naar een vakantie met familie en vrienden in Zuid-Frankrijk. Zuid-Frankrijk zullen we nog even op moeten wachten. Maar hier achter mij wordt ontzettend hard gewerkt om u allemaal te kunnen verwelkomen vanaf 1 juni. Zodat u weer kunt genieten van alle prachtige schilderijen. Uw steun blijft van grote betekenis.
Thanks
Very
for
nice
that.
video. Beautifully.
Yeah, very
You
nice.
explained everything so nicely, so clearly. Nice to see that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Epa. Show this video. Thank you.
Yep. Really, it was very nice video. Yeah.
So I'll just get to the last slide here.
You have sent me one New York Times link as well. Do you
Yeah.
want to open?
I thought I might as well share it with you in the chat, so you all have it. It's a link to the article in New York Times. Really, good advice to read it.
Okay.
Oh, good.
It's written
Good
by
feedback.
Shorto. You might have heard of he's quite a well-known author. So
Yeah.
Russell Shorto. Yeah. Yeah, we were pretty much finished, and I know that it's also due time. I just had some pictures of some of the events we had at the museum before COVID. A gala dinner, a nice exhibition tour. You can see on the right hand bottom side a visit to Auvers, which is a village, the last village where Vincent lived, close to Paris. And you see a picture where some of our patrons are looking at a letter that Marije mentioned that was acquired, a very special letter. So it just gives you an experience of what it's like to be one of our patrons. And the only thing that's left for us to say is, do you have any questions? Please ask them now, or if you think of one later, here's our email addresses. Do just get in touch.
Yes.
Eva and Maria, I only promise you, we very soon, one event we organize for Netherlands India Association in your place.
Yeah, exactly.
That would be lovely.
Yeah,
This
that's
year, or
good.
maybe this year we can't because already we have planned, but next year we make some plan for some planning nice Indian Dutch festival in your place. That's a problem.
You're very
Great.
We share the video from all our friends all over the world and tell about the Vincent van Gogh music and let them come Holland and go to join that.
Yeah.
That's your big promise.
very well.
Lovely.
Please do.
Now I give to please floor to Mr. Pankaj. Pankaj, you are the organizer of this
Thank you.
event, so I
Yeah.
want to give you floor, please.
Yeah. Thank you, Vinod ji, for the updating about that. Yes, next year we should plan some event in Van Gogh Museum so that our members should, yes, come along with us and we can have a complete tour of a museum. I know this year is very tough. And I want to thank Marcia and Eva for organizing such a wonderful event, very informative event. Yeah, we came to know about Van Gogh, his life and all about his art. Other than you, I also want to thank our entire board who was involved in organizing this event. We have Vinod ji, Suman ji, Victor ji, Dev ji. So complete board is here. Shanti ji is there. And also I want to thank all our members who have joined this event. And people will also view the entire video once we share this event video on Facebook or on YouTube. So it will have thousands of views of that videos as well. So people can.
Fantastic.
I will also share that video with you. So you can also have a look on it. If you want to share to somebody, you can also share. So I also see Eric G is also here. So Eric G is our ambassador, I would say. It's our the previous, I would say 7-8 years before, Eric G was an ambassador to India from the Netherlands. So Eric, you can introduce yourself, yeah? You're mute, Eric G. Eric G, you are mute. You need to unmute yourself.
Oh, there he is.
Yeah, now you are
Can
there.
you hear me now?
Yes,
Yes.
we can hear you now.
Okay. Sorry for being so late. I had another appointment. And of course, I've been visiting the Van Gogh Museum many, many times already in my life, since I'm very old already. But I'm looking forward to next year when we are willing to organize something from NIA in the Van Gogh Museum. I think NIA deserves that, and the Van Gogh Museum, in my opinion, deserves it also. So my compliments for what I've seen up until now. And good idea to have this type of interaction during the time that we had the Corona pandemic being so much present here in our lives.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
I've been living as in India for
say something.
Yes.
Pankaj?
Yeah, Madam Mariamot,
Madam Mariamot,
Madam Mariamot, can you hear us?
Yes.
No, I'm talking about Maria Mott. She was our
sorry.
ex-president. Maria Mott, you need to unmute yourself. Yeah, would you like to say something?
Well, I want to thank you for arranging this. I've been to the Van Gogh Museum many times and enjoyed also some very festive dinners in the course of the years. But what I enjoy the most is looking at all the paintings and reading the letters. And there was something in the family of my husband who said that there was a contact with the Van Gogh family years ago. And they even asked one of the forefathers or foremothers of my husband if they would buy a painting, and they said no, that they wouldn't. And I, my mother-in-law said if they had only known what he was going to become,
Yeah.
they would have bought it.
Yeah.
I think no one knew at that time what he was going to become, but he is such a fantastic artist. And I'm also very fond of his Japanese painting.
Yeah. Cherry blossoms. Yeah.
That, I think that's also a very special part of the collection.
Yeah.
So I thank you very much again.
Well, very nice to hear that you're so fond, and yeah, he is in a way larger than life, of course.
Yeah.
He would be very surprised that we're talking about him today.
Yes.
And so many people visit him. He would have never thought this in his lifetime, I think. Yeah, so it's great that we can touch so many people with his art.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Once again, thank you, Eva and Maria, for organizing such a wonderful event for our association. Yeah, thank you very much.
It was a
Thank you,
pleasure. And next time, hopefully.
With my family and friends. I go to visit very soon with my friends and a family from Amsterdam.
Okay, well, give
That
us
would be great.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Eva.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks
Thank
all.
you,
Bye.
Maria. Thank you, all the people.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you very much.